Hey there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. It is time for another interview, and my guest for today is a former three-time Impact Knockouts Tag Team Champion and former Impact Champion. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Courtney Rush. Courtney, thank you so much for doing this with me. This is our first interview together.
Yeah, totally, absolutely, and I guess technically all those accolades do belong to at least my body, right?
That's true, right? Hey, they belong to you,
Yeah,
most definitely.
the belt has definitely been around this ways.
You're like, I have held these belts.
Uh-huh.
First
I
of
just
all,
might not have been in the driver's seat, but that's okay.
I can't help but to notice everything that you have in your background. It is so exciting to see all of these different things that you have out there. I've literally only talked to you for like a couple minutes, and you already seem like the coolest person ever, by the way.
Hey man, I try, I just try to be chill.
I love it. All right, so let's get right into it because there have been some big changes in your career. So I
Okay.
want to start things off right off the bat. What was the catalyst of leaving Rosemary and returning to Courtney Rush?
Man, your guess is as good as mine. The last time I was aware of anything, as far as per mine and Rosemary's agreement, she got to be in the driver's seat, do whatever she wanted. I got to play video games on Twitch and live in an E-Fed. It was great, 7 years of bliss, and now all of a sudden I got responsibilities again. I don't know. I gotta find that demon and quit.
Oh my God. Okay, I love it. First of all, love that answer, by the way. That's the thing though. But Rosemary was a character, a persona, this person that we had been seeing, or rather, this demon, excuse me, that we had been seeing for years in Impact Wrestling, and now we're getting Courtney Rush. What is the difference for you? What has that transition been like? I know it's only been a very short period, but what has that transition been like for you so far?
Well, it's short relatively. I mean, it's been 7 years. So coming back into existence here and realizing how many fans Rosemary has accumulated that only knew Rosemary, that didn't know of like anything that happened before, or maybe even what happened when I accepted the possession when we merged. Maybe no background of that. So maybe, and it's very interesting because wow, the hive has grown. She has some very cool fans, but I have found that a lot of them have been really accepting and realizing that crazy stuff happens in the undead realm. I mean, I knew Havoc. Jessica's awesome. I knew her as Havoc. I kind of like Jessica a whole lot more. She beats me up way less than I used to. But that kind of thing happens in the undead realm. I mean, I only have like sort of memories of what Rosemary's seen, but weren't there like at least three different versions of Sue Young? Like
Yeah, that's
wild
true.
stuff happens down there. So I think a lot of the Hive fans, a lot of the Hivelings were not kind of surprised to see an alternate alter ego for Rosemary finally show up. And at least I kind of know, like Jessica's at a disadvantage. She doesn't even know who Havoc is. At least I'm aware of what's going on. Plus
I love
side.
it. Oh my God. Okay, so here's the thing I also want to bring up too, because I recently watched your diary episode
Yes.
on Impact Wrestling's YouTube channel, and there was so much in there that I was like, oh my God. I feel like I just got so much insight, so much perspective. And the first thing that I want to touch on was what Jessica was saying about how, Rosemary was one identity and then
Mhm.
you were another identity. So when you let go of an identity that you've held for so long, I can't imagine what that must be like.
It's very, very scary, and that was one of the reasons too, like, it was mostly me talking in that diary, but we were still wearing Rosemary's face because she's very much a part of me, and, like, we together are the presentation and the confidence, like, a lot of the confidence comes from her. I have never, ever, had a match, had a performance, had a play. I was in theater and university. Never once have I ever not had stage fright. Not once. She's the confidence, and she is like sh creating that persona, I suppose, amalgamating Rosemary with myself. That I don't know if I could have stepped out on a then TNA, now Impact Wrestling stage without her at first. And now being able to step out there without her, like, in my pocket, it's very scary. She's the one who knows this world, not me.
Well, see, that was the thing is that I remember, it was the character or the character of Rosemary like that got you into the doors
Mhm.
at Impact Wrestling with Decay. So it is one of those things where you're like, this is what I've done, this is what I've been doing, and now to kind of go back and try something different. But also similar,
Yeah.
it's an entirely different roller coaster. And one of the other things that I wanted to ask you in regards to that was one of the things that I think really, really stuck with me was when you were talking about your injury
Mhm.
and you were talking about how it felt to be out of action, to not have that high that you get as a professional wrestler, and to have these thoughts that, these very, very dark thoughts. And I was listening to that and I just thought, oh my God, like as a fan, I've never stepped into the ring, but as a fan, I don't think that I fully, fully grasp what it must be like for a wrestler to be out of action until I heard everything you had to say.
Yeah, it feels like being abandoned by what you love. I guess it's interesting because when a lot of people talk about depression and mental illness, they talk about their demons, right? When I talk about my demon, Rosemary is my protector, like my almost like guardian angel demon. So yes, then I definitely refer to like my mental illness and my depression and my anxiety. Those are different kind of demons, but yeah, it definitely feels like being abandoned when when you lose that one outlet. I remember when I was in high school and the first time I got injured playing rugby, and rugby was my main outlet at that point. And the first time I broke my collarbone, I was just like so angry all the time. And I was already a teenager, so you're already angry all the time, right? Like it's already rough. And I just remember lashing out, and like that was really the first kind of surgence of like my depression, and it came out as anger at first. And I remember that like vividly, that I've never done well injured. I've never done well because you get it taken away, and everything that's like your outlet gets taken away. So yeah, um, not only did I have wrestling taken away because I couldn't do the physical thing that I loved, I also couldn't be the character that was my protector, that was my confidence. So I couldn't even be Rosemary on. So I did take like a couple of bookings here and there that was like managing and stuff like that, but it's not the same, right? It's not as much performing. You're also not performing at your peak. Um, so it's just not there. So it feels like you're abandoned by a part of yourself. And that's oh god, if you abandon yourself, who's left for you, right?
Yeah, no, it was one of those things where I just thought like it's so true because you go out there, you're a performer, and you've always wanted to be a performer from the sounds
Yes.
of it. When you went to school for theater and film and all of
Mhm.
that, and then transitioning into pro wrestling, it seems that you always had that bug to be a performer. And so to have that taken away from you for an
Yes.
extended period of time, it's insane. So, but here's the thing too that I also want to bring up. I'm sorry if I'm going all over the place, but
No, it's all
uh,
good.
you've always though have been a focal point in Impact Wrestling, whether you were whether you were in the singles realm or in tag team division. So for you to be able to use this persona, to use this
Yes.
character, to use this performer, to go out there and do various things in Impact, what has that been? What has that meant for you in your career?
Awesome, because I specifically chose Scott D'Amore's school. Like when I decided, okay, I'm making this move, I'm going to be a professional wrestler, I need to choose the right school. I specifically chose Scott D'Amore's school because Alex Shelley, Chris Sabin, Petey Williams, they all came from there. And I knew that I was obsessed with TNA and I wanted to be a knockout. And I'm like, this is clearly the school that I want to go to. This is the associate. And so, like, because that was my number one goal, to be a TNA knockout and to go there, and now almost getting that last piece of the puzzle with the Rosemary persona finally being what launched me onto that stage, which was my goal from the start of getting into wrestling. It was awesome because it was like she was there when it was like, okay, it's time, let's go. Boom, last piece ready.
I love that, man. I love that so much. And also kind of like just saying just everything that you were doing in the beginning where you said about how you didn't relate to women that you were seeing in other company and
Yeah.
it wasn't until the women of the Impact, it wasn't until the knockouts that you started to relate to someone and then you go out there and you're doing it. And it's so cool to be able to see you do what you want and bring this character to life, but also connect with other people as well. Like that
Yes.
must be incredible.
It's weird. It's weird because, like, the thing I love the most is the fan art. Anytime people want, like, just send me, like, art is the coolest thing because I used to do that, like, and I really wanna start drawing again more, really, because I used to be all about drawing, and I would draw my favorites, and I have, like, notebooks and scrapbooks full of, like, when I would draw, like, the Hardy Boys and, like, back in high school, right? And, like, DX and all that, and now when people are drawing me, I'm like, yo, that's cool.
It's like
You
the
know, like
pitch
it
me
all comes
moment, right?
around. And like who knows if you like you're inspiring someone to draw now and who knows if they come up and like they become someone that inspires someone else. And I don't know, it's cool. And then this is
That's
where we
really
start singing the
awesome.
circle of life, right?
Yes, the circle of life. There you
Yeah.
go. That's exactly it. And one of the big topics, when it comes to Impact Wrestling, is always the Knockouts division, because they've always just been ahead of the times, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things that you also touched on in Diary was that when you first started in wrestling, like many other women when they were first getting their start back in the day, was that they didn't get to wrestle with other women, and there were very limited spots for women on shows. And how different do you think like things feel so different now and even then they still feel limited, which is crazy to think about.
Yes.
So, how do you think your start and when you came in wrestling has impacted your career and your run?
It's it's definitely opened up a lot more doors. Like when I started and like in my I guess my generation and maybe there was like maybe one or two girls in class, but most of us were training with guys. So, and then a lot of the times when you would get into when you eventually have your match, when you're training with guys, guys are a lot more like naturally stronger. So you don't like you're learning to not have to do as much because they're stronger, right? So when you get into matches and you realize working with women is not working with like a 250-pound dude, then you realize that you didn't there's still a lot more to learn. And now with like so many more spots and so many more schools and so many more girls being like encouraged to do sports in general, not just professional wrestling, but sports coming with an athletic background. A lot of girls like didn't start who 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 had an athletic background, who had ever played sports ever, because it still wasn't that common. And then like they're already starting at a lower tier because like so I came from playing 8 years of rugby, so I already knew how to take a hit, I knew how to fall, like I knew a lot of physical stuff that like someone who hadn't come from a sports background is that's going to be a very big shock to your body. And it's much more common now, so you're already getting a lot more like groundwork laid for these girls that are coming in with like a better sense of body control. They're doing gymnastics, they're just coming in with like better tools to start with. And being able to train with other girls is setting a much better precipice for what they're going to be able to expect in matches.
I love that. But it's so interesting though, because even just like hearing you talk about how limited the spots were. And
Mhm.
then I talk to women that are, just getting started in their careers. And we've had several of them on here on the channel where they're like a couple years in and they're like, oh, the spots are so limited. And I'm thinking to myself, and even then there's still more, it feels like there's way more spots now. So
Way more. You
it's so
it was lucky. It's like sometimes it wasn't a match. Sometimes the spot for a girl was that guy's manager.
and
You
you're like,
know?
you have to learn and get
Okay.
better just by learning how to learn and get better and be a better wrestler. But
Oh,
you're a
yeah.
manager for tonight. So that's your
But
experience.
that still does make you better because remember when I started at TNA, it was the first 8 months with Rosemary was all managing with Decay. And not until near the end there where they were like, "Oh, wait, you can wrestle?" Because again, I came from Canada, so it's very isolated. So again, with Courtney, not a lot of exposure there.
But even too, like the character aspect of it, obviously, I'm sure that, having this theater background helped you
Mhm.
out in it because your
Oh, 100%.
mannerisms always have been so like there's never once that I've seen you and I thought, I don't buy it. Not once. When I see it, I go, "Ooh, I buy a little too much. What's going on?
That's
What's
because
going
she's
on in
real. She's
there?"
right here. He's here. But yeah, theater's the first thing I suggest. Anytime I do any sort of training, if people ask like what would you say the one thing getting into wrestling school, I'm like, go take a theater course. You'll just
Did
it's still a stage. Like, yes, it's all physical, but that right, this is theater in the round. That is a stage right there. You have to be natural in front of the camera and in front of the crowd. And what will get you used to that is theater.
Did you why didn't you ever decide to continue pursuing a career in like a full-time career in stage or either film or television? Like aside from the sport aspect of wrestling.
Yeah.
Like I mean like as an
Stage
actor.
stage I would have. I much prefer live performances. It's funny. I have done a couple of like independent films in Monster Brawl Monster Brawl. I'm the witch bitch in that, which is a very fun Mortal Kombat style monster tournament to the death, and just maybe have an adult beverage before you watch it. Me and Crazy Steve were like zombie extras in a movie called Exit Humanity, which was super super fun. And me and Cherry Bomb were in The Beatdown, which was actually about wrestling, which is filmed in Nova Scotia. So I did do a couple of films, but I don't know. I always preferred live performances, and that was like you get that from wrestling. You get that like instant feedback from the crowd, right? I always identified. I always heard a story from Rodney Dangerfield when he was like on Caddyshack and like when he was doing his lines and like no one was like laughing, and it was like making him like really really self conscious because he wasn't getting that instant crowd feedback because like it's not in the script for everyone to laugh, but he was like, I'm not funny. This is awful. And I'm like,
Oh,
I identify with that.
you're like I get
I
it. I
get
get
you,
it.
Rodney. I get you. I respect right there.
So I'm curious, and this may be a silly question, but I know this because I used to be a theater major, quit
Mhm.
that, but they have you make you do really weird things in class.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
was one of the weirdest exercises that you had to do when you were in theater?
Oh my gosh. I've forgotten so many just because they were so weird, but, there
Or
was
even just like
definitely ones.
awkward?
Yeah, there was definitely ones where we had to, like, lie there and, like, moves like, it was, like, movement exercises, but you had to, like, move within, like, your circle or something, and there was, like, the long things you had to say, like, the long verses for, like,
Like
your, like
Shakespeare and
yeah, your, like,
stuff?
diction and, like, like, your pronunciation, like, "How now, brown cow, how"
Yes.
like the Ron Burgundy stuff at the start of Act 2.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But, yeah, oh my gosh, I would have to honestly think about that because I know there were some weird games and I can't remember them.
I feel like if you've never taken an acting class or a theater class, you have no idea how weird it can get in there. And I don't think I
Yes.
was prepared for that. Like, I thought we would just learn, like, I don't know what I thought we were going to learn, but you walk in there and they have you do all these weird stuff. And you're like, what is this? I'm in college. What's happening?
Yeah. It feels like you're in Diggin', like you're actually, like, playing Red Rover Red Rover and stuff like that.
Yes.
Like, "What's going on?" Okay.
That's awesome. Okay, I have a couple more questions for you. Then I want to segue really quickly into our lightning round. But we've the last person I got to talk to who is new to Impact Wrestling is Trinity,
Yes.
and so having her be part of the roster and as someone who's been with Impact Wrestling for a very long time, how has having Trinity brought into the company kind of changed things?
It's very cool. It's honestly to me, it's a sign of the times because how many times have we seen people want like going from TNA to a WWE, but like do you really see it come back that often? Like that was why Christian Cage was such a big deal and Kurt Angle when they came over in the early days, but then there's been so much like I guess stigma on TNA over the past decade ish that you haven't seen it very often, and just the fact that Trinity, of all the options that she could have, of all the choices of places that she has to go right now, especially because there's just so much more work for wrestlers in general and also for women, the fact that she chose to come to Impact, that's cool. Like we haven't seen that very often, and that's bringing a lot of eyes. That's like people going like, okay, why would she choose to go there? Maybe it is actually good and it's not just Impact saying, "I trust us, we're good." No, trust us, we're good. Come on. And
That's
that like
perfect.
that's really neat. And I love that like she wants to be part of this locker room because to me the knockouts locker room is just it's just like almost traditionally like so like strong in like building wrestling and like building so many different characters and all of the different looks and like the different types of wrestlers that make up the knockouts division, yet we are all still knockouts, but everyone's different. And I love that. And I love that she wants to be a part of that. And we're like, hell yeah, get in here. Let's go. Feel that
I like that
glow.
too. I love that too. All right. So we are going to go ahead and really quickly, I'll just get like 3 questions in since I know we don't have enough time, but let's get into it. So 3 questions here. The first one is, what is your favorite movie and play?
Movie and play. Play would be Macbeth, and movie, shoot. So, listen, I'll always revert to the Star Wars. Right? Let's go.
That's a good
Original
one.
trilogy.
Um, what's the craziest thing you have ever done outside of wrestling?
Outside of wrestling, I every time I say I played 8 years of rugby, people go, "What?" So maybe that is the craziest thing. I was longlisted for the national team, so that's pretty crazy.
That is true. It is very crazy. What's your favorite hobby outside of wrestling?
Playing video games, man. I love gaming.
And last one extra one. What's
Mhm.
something you would like to learn that you don't know that you would like to?
I've always wanted to learn how to play the guitar. I can read music. I played piano for many, many years of growing up. I want to learn how to play the guitar.
Hell yeah, I could just see you. You got the outfit already, you
You're
just need
jamming
the
out right
guitar
now.
to go out there and
Yeah.
rock it out. Exactly. All right, Courtney, well, I wanna thank you so much for coming
Thank
on and
you.
chatting with me. It's always a great time to get to meet new people that I haven't interviewed just yet
Hell
and
yeah.
to just get to know your personality a little bit more. Before we go, please, let the people know where they can support you, where they can watch Impact and all of that.
Absolutely. You're getting to know me. Everyone needs to get to know me. So we got to tune into Against All Odds this coming weekend or next weekend, July 9th, and then Against All Odds Fallout show or June, sorry, June 9th and June 10th. They're from Columbus, Ohio. I am so excited to be part of Impact Wrestling now, and you're going to see me live there. And then check me out at WrestleMania on Instagram and Twitter. Still running Rosemary's Twitch at RM the Demon Assassin on Twitch. Everywhere, playing games, having fun. Come check it out.
Perfect. I'm going to go ahead and post the links to that in the description box below. Do not miss
Thank you.
Against All Odds on June 9th. Check it out, impactwrestling.com. The links are in the description box below. Thank you so much. I'm Denise Salcedo. This is Courtney Rush. We'll see you guys next time. Bye, everyone.